I still remember the sound the sea made that night. Not waves, but something alive breathing through the fog. It was my first night alone on Seabrook Lighthouse, a mile off the coast of Maine. The last of the Coast Guard crew had left me with a handshake, a ration pack, and a warning. Don't stay up after the beacon goes out. I didn't take it seriously. The place was supposed to be empty, automated within the month. I was just there to log maintenance reports, keep the light turning, and make sure no one came ashore. Simple. But Seabrook was old, 1890s construction, iron staircase, stone walls sweating salt water. The foghorn groaned like it was alive. And when the supply boat's engine faded into the distance, the silence that followed didn't feel empty. It felt aware. The first few hours were uneventful. I checked the generator, tested the beacon rotation, and unpacked in the keeper's quarters. A single bed, desk, and radio that barely picked up static. The air smelled of rust and oil. Every sound echoed. At around 10 p.m., the fog rolled in thicker than I'd ever seen. Even the beam from the light barely reached 20 feet before dissolving into white. That's when I heard the first knock. 3 slow, heavy knocks from the door below. I froze, listening. The tide was high. No boat could have docked. No one could even stand on the rocks outside without being swept away. I waited. Nothing. Just the hum of the generator. I told myself it was the wind or a loose panel. But when I went downstairs to check, there were wet footprints leading from the door, straight across the floor toward the spiral stairs. I followed the prints halfway up before they vanished. No puddles, no trail. Just gone. That was the first time I noticed the clock on the wall had stopped. 11:47 p.m. And no matter how many times I wound it, the hands refused to move. Outside, the sea began to roar. Inside, something moved in the beams above me. Slow, deliberate, like boots on metal. The storm came in fast. By midnight, the whole tower was shaking with the wind. Rain lashed against the glass like gravel. Every time lightning struck, I could see the ocean heaving against the rocks. Black, endless, furious. I tried to keep busy, logging readings and generator data to calm my nerves, but then the radio crackled. At first it was just static. Sharp, biting bursts of white noise. Then, beneath it, a voice. Faint. Male, repeating one phrase. Light the way. Light the way. I froze. It wasn't a transmission from the Coast Guard. I'd used their channel before. This came through on an unmarked frequency, one I hadn't even tuned to. I picked up the mic. Who is this? Identify yourself. Silence. Then, you left me out there. The static swallowed the rest. I stared at the door, at the lantern beside it, and for a long second I could have sworn I saw a shadow move across the fogged glass, something human-shaped passing by slowly. But there couldn't be anyone out there. Not in that storm. Not alive. I grabbed my coat, lantern, and opened the door, just enough to look. Fog poured in like smoke. The beam of my lantern stretched maybe 3 feet before disappearing into the white. The ground outside was slick, but there were footprints again, this time circling the lighthouse like someone had been walking around it. And there was humming. A low, tuneless hum somewhere close. I stepped back inside, bolted the door, and went straight for the stairs. Halfway up, the light above flickered, once, twice, then went black. For a moment, the only light came from my lantern, glowing weak and yellow in the stairwell. That's when I saw the reflection. In the metal wall of the staircase, warped by rust, there was a face behind me. Pale, waterlogged, eyes open wide. I spun around. Nothing. But the air suddenly reeked of seawater, and dripping from the ceiling onto my shoulder was salt water. 1, 2, 3 drops. When I looked up, I saw bare footprints above me on the iron steps, leading up toward the keeper's room. By the time I reached the top of the stairs, the storm had turned the whole lighthouse into a drum. Every gust rattled the windows. The lantern flame trembled in my hand. and then I heard the whisper again, closer this time. "Light the way." It came from the keeper's quarters. The door was ajar, the room inside flickering with the soft pulse of the beacon outside. I pushed it open. Everything was exactly as I'd left it: bed, desk, journal, except for one thing. My lantern, the one I'd set on the desk earlier, was now lit and burning steadily. I hadn't touched it since dinner, and beside it was a small puddle of seawater with something floating in it. A metal tag, rusted but readable. U.S. Coast Guard, Carter, E., my own name. I stared at it for what felt like forever. I had no idea how it could have gotten there. I only brought one tag, the one around my neck. But when I reached for it, the tag on my chain was gone. Lightning flashed. And in that instant, the window filled with a face pressed against the glass. Pale, waterlogged, the same one I'd seen reflected in the stairwell. Eyes open, lips blue. It wasn't looking in. It was looking through me. The radio crackled again, hissing like it was boiling. "You left me out there. You promised you'd come back." The voice wasn't a stranger's this time. It was mine. I stumbled backward, hit the desk, and knocked over the lantern. The flame went out, plunging the room into darkness. For a few seconds, all I could hear was the ocean hammering the rocks below. Then came another sound, wet footsteps, climbing the stairs, slow and steady. One step. Pause. Another step. Closer. I held my breath, waiting, until they stopped just outside my door. The knob turned, and then softly, a whisper from the other side. "It's time to change the light." The door creaked open on its own. No wind, no draft. Just that slow, aching sound of old wood giving way. I didn't move. The lantern was dead. The beacon outside flickering weakly through the fog. And standing in the doorway was a man, soaked to the bone, wearing my uniform. His eyes were wide and empty, his lips pale. And around his neck hung a single dog tag. Mine. He stepped forward, water pooling beneath his boots. When he spoke, it was in my own voice. "You never made it back, Evan." I tried to speak, but nothing came out. He pointed toward the window where lightning flashed again. And this time, in the split second of white light, I saw something impossible. A wreck below the waves, just beyond the rocks. A small Coast Guard boat overturned, its hull torn open, and floating near it, a body. My body. I stumbled back, shaking my head. No, that's not... But the memories hit me all at once. The storm last month, the emergency call, the wave that hit us broadside, the freezing water. I never made it out. Seabrook Lighthouse had been automated for years. There was no final assignment, no maintenance crew, no one left to replace. I wasn't keeping the light. I was the light, or what was left of the man who used to. The figure reached out his hand, my hand, and whispered one last time, "Light the way." Then just like that, he was gone. The sea fell silent. The fog thinned. And when dawn broke, the lighthouse stood empty. The beacon still turned, slow and steady, as it always had. No one ever found a body. But sometimes, when the fog rolls in off the coast, fishermen say they hear a man's voice calling from the light tower. Light the way. If this story kept you watching, there's another real horror waiting for you. Click on the screen, and don't watch it alone.